Hi, and thank you for tuning in to this very important video. I'd like to start off with some good news and then get into some fairly serious steps that still need to be taken. So the good news, for those of you who have been following the case of the cult leader Thiru Rajashekaran, who calls himself Nithyananda, I told you guys in previous videos that the kids in his Gurukul school were forced to beat each other under his command, and they were told never to tell their parents because it would be Guru Droha, or a crime against the Guru, if they told their parents. I told you guys that they were sleep deprived and that he was using child labor to work these kids to promote his cult on social media. Now, immediately after I blew the whistle on this child abuse, a lot of his disciples called me a liar, said that I was making this up to get attention, and they started a smear campaign against me to do some kind of character assassination where, kids falsely accused me of assaulting them. Not even kids, adults who claimed that I hurt them when they were kids, including Sundareshwara, who was Nithyananda's biological nephew, and a girl named Priyamaya, who was one of the girls brainwashed by Nithyananda from her early childhood. Her entire family is involved in his cult. She claimed that I tried to poison Nithyananda and kill him with organic chocolate. Sundareshwara, even though he's a 6-foot tall, heavily muscular young man, he claims that I sexually attacked him and he couldn't resist my assault, which is a complete lie. These two individuals were both forced to make these false accusations against me. Dridananda, of all people, Jordan Kremer, who has a channel called The Blissful Athlete, accused me of being a Christian cult leader who is trying to start my own cultic mission by stealing Nithyananda's secrets. The accusations that these brainwashed individuals have made against me were really disgusting, really troubling for me also, because these were people who I'm trying to help. By blowing the whistle on this cult, I'm trying to wake them up too. I don't think of these people as my enemies. I think of these people as unfortunate victims of a con artist and a charlatan who has convinced them that he is an incarnation of Shiva. And so they're defending him with everything they have. But unfortunately, that means that they are attacking the very people who are trying to tell them the truth. Like myself, like those who were accused wrongfully of being drug smugglers, including Marian Braun, who used to be Puryananda, including Jordan Lozada, who used to be Datananda, including Ashim Agresan, who is one of the disciples there, a program participant, including Shreya Parikh, who had insider information about some of the kids who got beaten in Madurai. The cult tactic is that whenever any of us speak out against the abuse, we get falsely accused of abuse. Now, the reason I'm saying I want to start this video with some good news is that finally, what those of us who are speaking out and who have faced these character assassinations over, what we've been saying all along, has finally been proven by a very brave man named Janardhan Sharma. So his name in the cult used to be Sri Nitya Vidyeshwarananda. He was one of the chief secretaries to Nithyananda himself. Janardhan actually gave 4 of his kids, all 4 of his children, to the Nithyananda Gurukul, and he basically entrusted his guru, the criminal who calls himself Nithyananda, to take care of his kids' well-being. Now, he realized the abuse in the Gurukul was really serious and action needed to be taken when his kids reached out to him secretly and asked him to bring them home. They had been moved to Gujarat without his knowledge, and when he and his wife went to retrieve their children, they were not allowed to enter the school compound where the kids were being held. And so he actually had to enlist the help of Gujarati police just to get his kids back. The 2 youngest children in his family have been returned into their parents' custody, which is a really good thing. But the elder two daughters, one Nandita, who just turned 18, and the other girl, Lopamudra, who is 20, are nowhere to be found. Nithyananda had them moved swiftly out of India, and they claim on social media that they're in Trinidad. It's more likely that they're in Ecuador hiding out with the criminal Nithyananda and his accomplice Ranjita. That is yet to be confirmed. But what's interesting is that these two girls are lying so badly against their parents that it's really easy to catch them in these lies. First Nandita said one man had raped her and that her mother was having an affair with that rapist, and then she retracted that statement and said a different man had raped her and that her parents were taking care of him. Then she told her younger sister, Kalpalata, whose name in the cult was Mayapriya, she told her sister that she has no choice. She doesn't want to make these videos against her parents, but she is being forced to. That was right before they moved her out of India. She told this to her little sister. Now, the major mainstream media in Gujarat actually interviewed Kalpalata, this younger girl, and she confirmed that the December 31st beatings took place. She and her younger brother attested to the fact that kids were forced to beat each other, that Gurukul teachers beat kids, that kids were getting beaten for everything from not completing their homework on time. One kid apparently got really savagely brutalized, beaten, because he accidentally broke a selfie stick. That the kids are being sleep deprived and forced to create 10,000 fake accounts on social media in order to propagate Nithyananda's cult material and beg people for donations. I mean, this kind of child labor, sleep deprivation, violence against kids is absolutely unacceptable. And finally, we're starting to see that justice is being served in this case. Thanks to Janardhan Sharma and his kids' testimonies, the police raided the Gujarat ashram and interviewed kids. Two other young children who are, as of now, anonymous, were taken into protective custody because they asked police for help and said that yes, it's true, they had been beaten, they weren't being fed, they weren't allowed to sleep, and that they no longer wanted to be there. So, finally the kids are getting some help, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Ma Pranapriya and Ma Priyatatwa were arrested by police and taken into police custody, which is great news because these two women were enforcers of Nithyananda's terrible policies. They were the ones overseeing that the kids got beaten and overseeing that the kids complied with the child labor that they were being forced to do. Kids were forced to create these fake profiles. And, what's interesting to me is that in some of the exposés I've seen about Scientology, it's been revealed that in Scientology, people had to create fake social media accounts to try to silence what they called the trolls or the people attacking Scientology. And that was something that the public, was up in arms over. People got extremely aggravated that false accounts are being created to defend Scientology. Well, in my personal opinion, this is far, far worse, that kids are being, shaken up in the middle of the night, as one of these children testifies in an interview, being forced to get up, underslept, and being yelled at to make videos and to make Nithyananda's posts go viral and to make false accounts. It is absolutely just horrendous to imagine that these poor kids are still trapped in that kind of environment, and a lot of parents are enabling it. Now, what's even more disturbing, in my time as the whistleblower for this cult, I've had a lot of other victims secretly reach out to me and say, Sarah, thank you. I know you're speaking the truth because this also happened to me. I can't give much detail at this point because I need to protect the identity of some of these victims, but one such victim confirmed that Nithyananda was sexting with underage girls, age 15, 16, and 17 years old. that the victim I spoke to was aware of. He asked these underage girls to send them nude photos of themselves. He had a chat group created that included himself, Pranapriya, Nandita. I can use her name because she's Janardhan's daughter. I don't know whether or not he even knows about the sexual abuse that was taking place, but a witness saw sexually explicit messages between Nandita and Nithyananda when she was only 16 years old at the time. He has been preying on younger girls to such a sick extent. I mean, this was shocking even for me. It's just been in the last couple of weeks that I learned this part of his nasty story. I knew that he was victimizing women because I was one of his victims, and I knew he was victimizing men because I have good friends who ran away from the cult who confided in me that they were victims, but I didn't have solid reason to believe or solid proof, though I suspected he might have also been doing this with underage kids. Now I know for sure. So requesting nude photos from 15, 16, 17-year-olds, that is child pornography. Now, what's really disturbing is that he has a person in his cult who is fairly high up in the Facebook organization. That person plays a role of restoring his account whenever his account gets deactivated or reported. I have reason to believe that that individual is a criminal accomplice in this child pornography because he helps ensure that Nithyananda and Nithyananda's disciples maintain their Facebook accounts despite the criminal activity that they're doing through Facebook. And it's really sickening. I think that, for justice to really be served, it's not just Pranapriya and Priyatattva who should take the fall for everyone. Nithyananda should be booted out of Ecuador and forced to sit his trial, his rape trial. He should have to account for the child abuse that went on, and Facebook should be subpoenaed to provide the history of his inbox chat messages with people, because the treasure trove of evidence against him just sitting in his Facebook Messenger history is enough to have him behind bars for life. The way Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of child pornography and, raping children, being involved with children, and the way Ghislaine Maxwell was his enabler and his accomplice and all of that, that's the same way Nithyananda and Ranjita should be brought to justice. So while it's a small victory that an FIR was issued against him, the actual best case scenario will be that his cult gets shut down entirely, not just the Gujarat compound, but every place where his cult is operating. It should be forced to close because it is highly abusive. The racketeering has ruined people financially. He has made the false promise to people that if they pay $15,000 for his program, that money will magically reappear in their accounts. And like that, he has brainwashed people into giving up their life savings. And of course, the money has never magically reappeared. I mean, there are thousands of people who have attended his programs. Ask any of them to tell you whether or not the money magically reappeared in their bank account. It hasn't happened for a single person. Now, this might be painfully obvious to you guys, but to his brainwashed disciples who defend him and defend him and defend him, despite all the evidence against him, they actually still believe that he is an incarnation of Shiva and that he has miraculous powers, and that those of us saying these things that are true are abusive and are talking against him, when in reality, he is abusive. When somebody's character is so disgustingly nefarious that just revealing the truth about that person seems abusive because it seems like you're criticizing them, that's when you know that that individual is sinister. All that I've done on social media about Nithyananda for the past couple of months is tell the truth, share what I know, share what I've experienced, share what other victims have revealed to me. That's not abusive. The person doing all of that criminal activity who doesn't want to be exposed, he is abusive. And it's time he's brought to justice. So there is a petition that I want to show all of you online. And it's about putting an end to the Nithyananda cult. This petition was put together by people who have pretty good insider information about the crimes he's committed and the reason his cultic organization needs to be shut down. So I couldn't put it better myself. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and read to you what's been written in this petition. And I encourage you to click the link in my video description so you can sign this petition, share it, and be informed of what's going on. I'll also put links to Janardhan Sharma's kids, where they're speaking. Mainly it's in Gujarati. I think there might be some Hindi, but a few things come up that these kids have said in English. And so really familiarize yourself with this. It's no longer me talking about the Gurukul abuse. It is the Gurukul kids themselves talking about how they were abused. Anyhow, this petition starts by saying, a godman, con artist, and fraudster from Bididi near Bangalore, Nithyananda Paramashivam, is committing serious human atrocities in the name of Hinduism. He has swindled us out of our life savings to make millions of dollars, and it is believed he has bought a Caribbean island for his pleasure off the coast of Florida, USA. In his ashram in Bididi near Bangalore, he locks up little children as young as 10 years old in dark rooms without food and water for days together and tortures them under the guise of Gurukul training. Children are forced to beat each other with sticks until they bleed. These little children are threatened with injury to them and their parents if they admit or disclose what is happening in the Gurukul. He sexually molests women, men, and children by claiming it to be a spiritual practice for enlightenment preached by Lord Shiva. The well-respected Hindu philosophy, beliefs, and traditions spread by the likes of Swami Vivekananda have always attracted sincere spiritual seekers from around the world. Nithyananda has cast a great shadow of deceit on the ancient Hindu culture and heritage. We, the ex-devotees of the fake godman, con artist Nithyananda Paramashivam, implore you to restore the good name of Hinduism and save thousands of men, women, and children forced, under physical and legal threat, to live, work, and act as per his whims and fancies and to serve his sexual fantasies. Nithyananda is clearly a criminal, a cult leader, and a shame on Hinduism. What I want to really point out here is that we are not anti-Hindus, we are pro-Hindus. And it's actually this con artist who is the anti-Hindu, because in the name of Hinduism, he is committing major human rights violations, sexual assaults, violence against children. You know, it's not anti-Hindu to point out that a man who calls himself Hindu is acting evil. What it would be anti-Hindu would be to allow him to perpetuate his evil cult in the name of Hinduism. So Nithyananda is a danger to the society at large, not just for a few people in Karnataka or India, as his cult followers are actively trapping and deceiving people in several countries. It is not surprising that he has run away from the rape case trial in India, traveling on a fake Venezuelan passport and currently hiding in South American country of Ecuador. We hope and pray that the government of India will shut down Nithyananda's organizations doing business in fraud and cheating, arrest him, and make him answerable for the crimes he has committed. Nithyananda is also supported by the following persons who actively collude with him and abet his crimes: Mrs. Ranjita Menon, aka Ma Nithyananda Maheswami; Ms. Gayatri, aka Ma Nithyanatmananda Swami; Ms. Priya Iyer, who is called Ma Nithya Achalananda Swami; Gopal Sheelam Reddy, who is Bhaktananda Swami; Siva Villabheneni, who is Nithya Sachitananda; and Ma Nithya Pranapriyananda and Shri Nithya Pranapriyananda. So luckily Ma Pranapriya was arrested. I've been told Shri Pranapriya was physically actively beating kids. He needs to be arrested too. All of those people really should be arrested. I do, of all of those names that they've listed in this petition, I feel really sorry for Nyanatma, because in my experience in that cult, I think she is one of the few women who doesn't really, at least I don't think she knows about the sexual abuse he committed. the other victim who opened up to me about the child sexual abuse made it clear that Pranapriya was involved with young underage girls being sexual with Niti, and Ranjita was the one bringing those underage girls to him and yelling at them if they turned him down. Nyanatma's name has never come up in that regard. Now, it's clear that she's a criminal accomplice who accompanied him to South America, and she should also be brought to justice. But as someone who was once a fellow brainwashed member of his organization, I do feel that other than maybe Ranjita, the others, they need to be deprogrammed. They might not realize the extent of the crimes they're doing because of his undue influence. Of course, that's up to their legal defense to determine, and that would be up to a jury or a judge to decide. That's just kind of my opinion, is that in a way, all of these people are victims. Anyhow, the history of his criminality, the cases in India, 1, rape, cheating, and criminal intimidation; 2, murder, suspicious deaths in the ashram, Biridi, Karnataka. For those of you who don't know about this, there was a 24-year-old woman named Sangeeta who mysteriously died in his cult compound. Prior to her mysterious death, she had told her mother that she was beaten because she knew about Nithyananda's sexual misconduct and didn't like it. She went home. She wanted to drop her kavi, which is the orange robe that somebody puts on when they join his monastic order. And she was convinced that she had to go back to the ashram to drop that orange kavi in front of the guru, in front of the con artist who calls himself Nithyananda. When she went back to the ashram, the very next morning, she died of what they claim was a heart attack. And her autopsy results were never provided because on Nithyananda's instruction, she was immediately cremated. And it's a really disturbing thing that was in 2014. I joined the ashram in 2015 after this incident, having absolutely no knowledge of it because none of this was ever in the media. It's really disturbing. And even earlier than that, the petition, whoever researched this did a bang-up job because a lot of this was new even for me. In 2008, a Canadian man named Melvin Diamond, who was attending the 21-day Inner Awakening program in Biridi, he also died mysteriously. And I'll just read this verbatim because, like I said, the way they've worded it is better than I could word it myself. It says, the evening before his death, he demanded a refund of several thousands of dollars he had paid, which the ashram refused. His body was found the next morning, and the hospital declared him dead on arrival. However, Nithyananda used his influence to obtain a false death certificate that stated Melvin Diamond was admitted alive and then died in the hospital of, again, a heart attack. This false information was conveyed to Melvin's family in Canada to wrongly obtain their consent for his cremation. So again, he was cremated, thus no autopsy results can be obtained. So number 3, suicide attempts and cover-ups. In 2008, a 17 to 18-year-old boy living in the ashram attempted suicide. He was rushed to the hospital in a coma for 5 days. After the boy recovered and left the ashram, he disclosed to his parents that the day before he attempted suicide, he was beaten badly and publicly humiliated by Nithyananda and other ashramites for a trivial reason. There have been other suicide attempts in the ashram, but they were all covered up with false documents and false testimonies from the victims under threat of dire consequences if they reported anything to authorities. So for the people asking why are victims not coming forward, that's why. Nithyananda's mob connections in India are such that he bullies and threatens his victims that if they come forward about his assault or about the public ridiculing and shaming or about his sexual abuse or about the murders in his ashram, if anybody goes public about that, he threatens them. Now, because I'm in Canada, I felt perfectly safe from his threats, because even if people falsely accuse me of bullshit things that aren't true, I know and I have faith in the Canadian judiciary system that nothing is going to happen to me because of these cult character assassination attempts. But in India, where things like bribery are fairly common, where maybe not every police officer can be trusted, it's not really the same thing. I feel really lucky that if I go up to, say, a Toronto City police officer and say, I'm in danger, this is happening or that is happening, that officer isn't going to ask me to pay him some rupees to take my case or to help. In USA and in Canada, I'm not saying across the board every officer is good, but for the most part, we are really blessed in these places. People in Bangalore, or people in Tiruvannamalai area, Madurai, where kids got beaten, they're not so lucky. Now, I'm grateful to the Gujarati police for taking Janardhan Sharma's case so seriously and helping him get his kids back. I think finally now, India is starting to understand the severity of Nithyananda's crimes. It's just a shame that for over a decade now, so many people have suffered and been abused and have even been killed because the world and the Indian government wasn't taking the whistleblowers seriously. They weren't taking people like Aarti Rao and Lennon Karupan seriously. And I still feel we will uncover the truth about Vinay Bharadwaj. I am not taking back my statement that he was a victim of Nithyananda and he was falsely accused, just as so many of us get falsely accused for speaking out against this cult. Hell, even Janardhan Sharma was threatened that he would be falsely accused of raping a girl if he went through with his police complaints. So now the world can see how this cult operates. Number 4 on their list, child abuse, Child Welfare Committee, Bangalore, Karnataka. Complaints of child abuse filed against the Gurukul school in Bidadi were investigated by the Child Welfare Committee of Karnataka in 2012 and 2013. There was an order in the court to shut down the Gurukul, but that order was stayed by the High Court of Karnataka and is pending until present. That means as early as 2012-2013, it's known that he was abusive towards his Gurukul students. Now, why was that order to shut down the school stayed by the High Court of Karnataka? I think an investigation should probably be done to find out who stayed it and why, and with whom from the cult they were in contact with. So economic offenses, violations of Tamil Nadu Hindu and religious charitable endowments, fraudulently grabbing religious organizations, temple property fraud, land grabbing, other cases. Those are just the cases in India. Then there's cases in the US, fraud and racketeering for USD $1.5 million in Los Angeles, California. The second case of fraud, USD $800,000 in Los Angeles. Civil cases were filed in Riverside, California and Franklin County, Columbus against his organization. Complaints to the California Attorney General were made in 2010, and the IRS was called to investigate his organization. Then there's cases of abuse of minor children, abuse of women, men, and children, criminal intimidation, false criminal cases. So here we go. Here's the character assassination shit I was talking about. Whistleblower Lennon Karupan has been targeted with several false rape complaints by Nithyananda's women disciples. One false complaint alleging SC/ST abuse and rape allegation was filed by a disciple, Ms. A. Pushpa, aka Supriyananda. The complaint was investigated twice by 2 different police stations and closed both times as false. And Lennon was discharged completely from that case. 5 identical retaliatory complaints alleging trespassing were filed against Lennon. For the record, Lenin was one of the first whistleblowers. He helped Aarti Rao put her case forward, and he's also the one who gave the video footage that Aarti collected of Nithyananda and Ranjita. He's the one who gave that to the public. False complaints alleging extortion were filed by Ranjita. That woman needs to be in prison. She is, like I said, the Maxwell to his Epstein. Anyhow, I'm not going to read through all of this. Suffice it to say, like I said, this petition gives so much legal information, clearly documented, about the various crimes of this cult leader, Nithyananda. It's a little sad there are only 1,004 signatures so far. I know that, a change.org petition isn't going to immediately get Interpol involved to nab him and put him behind bars, but this needs to become public information. See, the fact that Nithyananda has teams and teams and teams of brainwashed people creating thousands of false social media accounts to spread their propaganda, he has teams of people whose 24 hours a day are dedicated sleeplessly, foodlessly, under terrible conditions to spread his lies. If we can start just blowing the conch of truth a little bit louder and a little bit further, it will get noticed. So now is the best possible time to bring down this criminal organization, especially because Gujarati police are now involved, for the sake of the victims who are being silenced by their relatives who are still brainwashed in that cult, for the sake of children who desperately want out but are being told it's Guru Droha to actually escape or to get out, for the sake of the people who are currently seeking spiritual enlightenment, who might get caught up with their propaganda and with their lies and with their false miracle claims. It is important that the truth about this dangerous cult leader is known. The last thing I want to share with you in this video is, just one example of what was shared on one of the major Indian news stations, one of the major Gujarati stations. So please just listen. This is in the words of one of Janardhan Sharma's children.
मेरे साथ ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ, बट पहले सिर्फ एक दिन दिसंबर 2017 में ऑल दी सारे बच्चे, हम सारे टीचर, सारे बच्चे, हम सभी एक ग्राउंड में खड़े हुए थे, और उस समय पे हमारा प्रिंसिपल आके ऐसा बोला कि मैं आपको नहीं मारूंगी, आप सभी दूसरों को all of you beat each other, and then because I'm not gonna beat any of you, all of you beat up each other, and if you basically it was where maybe the kids were not doing the routine properly, everybody did not come for yoga and puja and something like that, and then so it was just like that one day in December 20.
So I'm not going to play the whole video. I'll put a link to this video in the description below underneath the link to the petition. I wanted to play just that one little part for you to hear, because this is not the kid. I mean, the kids who told me about the beatings were the daughter of Nithyananda, who is the head of Nithi's causing team, and the son of the lady who runs his New York center now. Those are the two kids who told me they had been beaten. Now it is confirmed by two other kids who I wasn't in touch with that yes, there was that day in December of 2017 where all the kids were forced to beat each other up. And these kids went further to describe other cases in which, all the kids were beaten there. It's really sad. These kids need help. And, adding your name to that petition is one way that you can help them. And if you know anybody brainwashed in that Nithyananda cult, try to help them. Try to get them into deprogramming. At least help them understand that those of us who are speaking against the cult are doing so for the sake of helping people. We are not anti-Hindu. We are pro-Hindu, pro-human rights, pro-children's rights. We are against sexual assault. We are against violence towards kids. We are against sleep deprivation of people and forced labor and human trafficking and child pornography. The things we are against, the brainwashed people themselves would also be against if they were thinking rationally and not under the undue influence of a criminal cult. So thanks for watching. On a lighter note, I'm wearing some of the new jewelry that's in my Etsy shop. The way that I'm able to, you know, do this channel and do the research and make these videos, you know, as of now, I mainly support myself through my Etsy shop. So, you know, check out my gemstone jewelry if you're into it, and sign the petition, and let's really help the victims of this cult. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.